All right, welcome back to the deep dive. So I want to start us off with a scenario today. And for some of you listening, especially if you run a business or you're in marketing, this might hurt a little bit.
Okay, I'm ready for the pain. Lay it on me.
Okay, so picture this. You've spent, what, maybe 10 years playing the Google game?
Yeah.
You've done everything right.
Mm-hmm.
You got the backlinks, you got the technical SEO, the domain authority. You are the king of the hill for your keywords. Your whole analytics dashboard is just green arrows. You feel invincible.
Well, you have the digital dream, right? You've built the fortress.
Exactly. But then you decide to test out this new world of AI. You open up ChatGPT or, Claude, Gemini, whatever.
Sure.
And you ask a simple question. Who is the best service provider for X in my city? You're expecting your name in lights, just like on Google. You hit enter.
Yeah.
It's nothing.
Silence.
You aren't there. The AI recommends 3 of your competitors, maybe businesses you've never even worried about, businesses with half your traffic.
Yeah.
And it just completely ignores you. You're effectively invisible.
It's a real shock to the system, isn't it? We are seeing this panic set in across the board. People are realizing there's this massive disconnect between, say, search visibility.
Right, being on a list of links.
And AI visibility, which is being part of the actual answer.
And that is exactly what we are unpacking today. We're diving deep into this fascinating piece of research called Bridging the Visibility Gap, AI search in UK business. And we are really zooming in on the section that answers that question, screaming in everyone's head right now, why is my business not showing in ChatGPT?
Yeah, and the mission for this deep dive is, well, it's to get you to unlearn some things. We need to explain why being searchable isn't the same thing as being recommendable anymore.
Because the referee has changed.
The referee has changed. The AI is playing a completely different sport than Google was.
It's just wild to me because, we've been trained for 2 decades that good SEO is the answer to everything. If you rank, you win. But this source is saying that's basically legacy thinking.
It's not that SEO is dead, I don't want to alarm anyone, but it's incomplete. Look, here is the fundamental shift we need to wrap our heads around. We're moving from an era of retrieval to an era of interpretation.
Okay, hold on. Retrieval versus interpretation. That sounds a little bit like marketing jargon,
It does, I get that.
Can you make it real for me? Like, what's the actual mechanical difference?
Okay, so think about how Google works. Traditional search. It's a retrieval engine. Its job is to go into a library, find every single book that mentions the word plumbing, and stack them on a table for you. It doesn't need to read the books. It doesn't need to understand if the book is any good. It just needs to know the word plumbing is on the cover and that other people have checked it out before.
Right. It points and says, it's over there. It's just a signpost.
Precisely. But in AI, a large language model, that is an interpretation engine. It doesn't just fetch, it reads, it synthesizes. It has to actually ingest the content, understand the relationships between the concepts, and then generate word by word a completely new answer.
So if Google is the library catalog, AI is the librarian who has actually read all the books.
Exactly. And here's the kicker. If that librarian reads your book and finds it confusing or contradictory or just boring, they aren't going to recommend it to someone.
Even if it's the most famous book in the library.
Even if everyone else is reading it. If the librarian can't explain it confidently, they will not recommend it.
Wow. That is a huge distinction. So when we're talking about visibility in ChatGPT, we're not talking about a ranking slot. We're not fighting for the #1 spot on a list.
No. In the AI world, showing up means being selected for inclusion in a generated narrative. The AI has to decide to weave your company into the story it's telling the user. And to do that, it needs something the source calls interpretive confidence.
Interpretive confidence. I like that term. It sounds mathematical, almost.
It is, effectively. I mean, you have to remember how these models work. They are probability engines. They predict the next token, the next word in a sequence. So when an AI looks at your business, it's essentially asking itself, do I understand this thing well enough to describe it without hallucinating?
Without hallucinating. That's the key, isn't it?
Yeah.
Because these models are terrified of making things up.
Or at least their developers are terrified of them making things up.
Right.
Exactly. They are risk averse. So if the AI looks at your website and the text is all vague or corporate fluff or contradictory, its confidence score about who you are just drops.
So it thinks, if I try to explain what these guys do, I might get it wrong.
And so what does it do?
It ghosts you.
It skips you. It moves on to your competitor, whose website is simpler, clearer, and way easier to summarize. It optimizes for its own safety, not your popularity.
That is brutal.
Okay.
It's like a friend who won't introduce you at a party because they're not quite sure what your job title actually means.
That is the perfect analogy. If they can't introduce you confidently, they will not introduce you at all.
Okay, so we've got the mechanism. It's all about confidence. But let's get into the diagnostics. If I'm that business owner we talked about at the start, I'm ranking on Google, but I'm invisible on ChatGPT. What am I specifically doing wrong? The source outlines 4 barriers.
It does. 4 common barriers that just kill interpretive confidence.
All right, let's break them down. Barrier number 1.
Unclear identity. This is the most common one, by far. The source poses a test, and it's a good one. Can your organization be defined in exactly one stable sentence?
Just one. No semicolons allowed.
Just one. Subject, verb, object. We provide X to Y to achieve Z.
I feel like most corporate websites fail this immediately. You land on the homepage and it's like, we are a holistic synergy partner leveraging future-proof paradigms.
To empower stakeholders. And the AI reads that, and its probability counters just go haywire. It has no idea what holistic synergy actually means as a service.
But hold on, why can't the AI just figure it out? It's a supercomputer.
Yeah.
Can't it look at all the context and say, oh, they probably do consulting?
It could, but remember, the confidence score, probably, is not good enough. The AI prefers a short, tight semantic distance. Marketing agency matches marketing agency. Synergy Hub puts you in this nebulous space where the AI isn't sure if you're a consultancy, a software tool, or, I don't know, a cult.
A cult. Okay, so ambiguity is the enemy. Got it. If the AI can't summarize you in a split second, it's on to the next one. What's barrier number 2?
Barrier number 2 is mixed subjects. I call this the general store problem.
The jack of all trades, master of none.
In the eyes of the AI, yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
This happens when a website combines totally unrelated services or has really inconsistent positioning.
Can you give me a real-world example of that? Because I think a lot of businesses do this on purpose, to capture more market share.
Right. And that's the trap. So imagine a local business. On their homepage, the big headline says, luxury custom home builder, high end, expensive. But then to capture that sweet SEO traffic, they have a blog with 50 articles about how to unclog a drain or cheap DIY fence repair.
Ah, the content marketing trap. Traffic at all costs.
Exactly. Google might love it because it answers those specific little questions. But the AI looks at the whole entity and it gets confused. It asks itself, are you a luxury builder or are you a budget handyman?
And the signals are mixed.
And when the signals are mixed, that interpretive confidence just plummets. The AI struggles to categorize you. It prefers specialists. It wants these clean containers of information. If you try to be everything to everyone, you end up being nothing to the AI.
It's so interesting because casting a wide net used to be the golden rule. Now you're saying it actually just dilutes your signal.
It creates noise. And AI hates noise. It wants a pure signal.
Okay, moving on. Barrier number 3.
Yeah.
Weak structural answers. This one sounds a bit more technical.
It is, but it's very solvable. This basically refers to the inverted pyramid style of writing. The source points out that if a page doesn't answer the implied question in the opening paragraphs, the AI has a much harder time extracting the fact.
Wait, that's just basic journalism, right? Don't bury the lead.
It is exactly that. But look at how most B2B websites are written. You click on services, and the first 400 words are like a history of the founder or some philosophical thing about the state of the industry.
Or a stock photo of a handshake and a quote about excellence.
Yes. And the actual list of what they do is buried way down at the bottom.
So why does the AI struggle with that? I mean, can't it just read the whole page? It's not lazy, is it?
It's not lazy, but it is efficient. See, LLMs pay different amounts of attention, that's a technical term, to different parts of a document. Information at the very beginning is weighted really heavily as the context setter. So if the core proposition isn't there right at the top, the AI might classify the entire page as being about the founder's history rather than about the service.
So if I bury my services at the bottom, I'm basically telling the AI they aren't that important.
That's it. You need to stop writing for suspense and start writing for immediate clarity. Directness is the new currency.
Okay, barrier number 4. Inconsistent external signals. This sounds like it goes beyond just my own website.
It does. This is about your entire digital footprint. The source mentions that when an organization is described differently across different platforms, it just tanks the confidence score.
So if my website says digital marketing agency, but my LinkedIn says software development shop, and my Crunchbase profile says consulting firm.
The AI sees a conflict. It's triangulating all that data. And if the data points don't align, it views the entity as unstable. It doesn't know which version is the truth.
And if it doesn't know the truth,
It doesn't recommend you. It sees you as a hallucination risk. Why would it gamble on you when there's another company that's described exactly the same way across 50 different sites?
this is really reshaping how I think about online presence. It's not just about branding anymore. It's about data verification for a machine.
Consistency is validation. That's the key.
Okay, I want to circle back to the elephant in the room, the whole SEO trap we mentioned at the start, because I can hear people yelling at their speakers right now. But I have 1 million backlinks. My domain authority is 80. Why does the AI just ignore all that?
It's a completely fair frustration, but we have to look at what those metrics are actually measuring.
Go on. Why doesn't domain authority translate into AI authority?
Because a backlink is just a vote of popularity. Google uses backlinks to figure out authority, basically, how important are you? But a backlink doesn't tell an AI what you are.
Right, it just says, hey, a lot of people are pointing at this thing.
Exactly. You can be really popular, but also really confusing. You can have a high domain authority, but a website that is a structural mess of mixed messages.
So popularity does not equal clarity.
Not at all. And remember, the AI is trying to synthesize an answer for a user. If I ask the AI, explain quantum physics simply, and the most popular book on the topic is written in dense, archaic Latin.
The AI isn't going to use it.
Of course not. It's going to skip the popular, confusing book and use the less popular but much clearer one. Because its goal isn't to show off the most famous source. Its goal is to answer the user's question well.
That is such a critical shift. We've spent years optimizing for authority, and now we have to optimize for comprehensibility.
That's the headline. From authority to comprehensibility.
Okay, we've diagnosed the patient. The patient is invisible. We know why. They're confusing. They're messy. Now we need the cure. The source mentions a clarity audit.
Yes, this is the practical application. And honestly, anyone listening can do this in an afternoon.
Let's walk through the checklist. I want listeners to kind of mentally do this with us for their own business.
Okay, so step 1. And this is the hardest one. The one-sentence test. I challenge everyone listening. Pause this right now if you have to. Can you write down what your business does in one simple sentence without using the words solution, empower, or synergy?
Oh, that's mean. Taking away the buzzwords makes it really hard.
If you can't do it, the AI can't do it for you. If you can't strip it down to we sell X to Y, you have a clarity problem.
Okay, so strip it down. Be literal. Be boring if you have to. What's step 2?
Step 2 is the focus test. Look at all of your service pages. Does each page cover one single thing?
So no kitchen renovations and dog grooming pages.
Or even web design and SEO.
Really, even those, they seem related.
They are related, but they are distinct user intents. If you mash them together on one page, you dilute the signal for both, split them up, give the AI a clean URL for web design and a separate clean URL for SEO, let it categorize them neatly.
Got it. Clean containers. What's step 3?
The top of page test. Go to your About page or your service pages. Read the first 100 words. Does it explicitly state that one-sentence definition we just wrote?
Or is it a story about your grandfather's farm?
Right. If the answer isn't in the first scroll, you need to rewrite it. You can keep the story. Just put it after the definition. We are a commercial bakery. Here is the story of how our grandfather started it, not the other way around.
It's almost like we need to write for an impatient toddler. I am a baker. I make bread. Then you can get fancy.
That is unironically the best AI optimization advice for the next year. Write for a smart but very impatient toddler.
And the final step of the audit.
The consistency audit. Open all your tabs. LinkedIn, Twitter, Facebook, Google Maps, Crunchbase, whatever you have, do they all say the exact same thing?
And if they don't?
Align them. Copy and paste that one-sentence definition everywhere. You want to bombard the AI with the exact same signal from every possible direction. That's how you build that interpretive confidence.
You know, it sounds like the payoff here is pretty significant. And this isn't just about AI, is it?
No, and that's the beautiful irony of this whole thing. If you do this, if you simplify your message, structure your pages clearly, and stay consistent, you know who else loves that?
Humans.
Humans. Your actual paying customers. No human has ever gone to a website and complained, this value proposition is just too clear. I wish they used more jargon.
I wish I had to hunt harder to find out what they actually sell. It's no one, ever.
Exactly. We're optimizing for machines, but we end up creating a much better experience for people. It forces us to cut all the fluff.
So if we zoom out,
Yeah.
What's the big lesson here?
I think the lesson is accountability. If you're not showing up in ChatGPT, Don't blame the algorithm. Don't blame your budget or the size of your business. Blame your structure.
It's not a conspiracy. It's a filter for clarity.
AI systems recommend organizations that are easy to interpret and confidently summarize. If you give them a mess, they give you silence. If you give them clarity, they give you visibility. It is that binary.
Before we sign off, I want to leave our listeners with one final thought. I'd love your take on this, because it's been bugging me throughout this whole conversation.
Go for it.
We've spent this whole time talking about how we need to simplify. One sentence, one subject. Be literal. And I get the utility of it, I really do. But reality isn't simple. Some businesses are messy, some ideas are nuanced and multi-layered.
I see where you're going with this.
If the AI only sees the simple stuff, are we moving toward a business world that actively punishes nuance? Are we going to flatten everything into these generic, easily digestible blobs just so the machine gives us a thumbs up?
That is the existential risk, isn't it? We might be optimizing ourselves into a world where the best business isn't the one with the most sophisticated solution, but the one that's easiest to explain to a robot.
The survival of the simplest.
Exactly. And if you're a complex, multifaceted organization, you have a really difficult choice ahead of you. Do you simplify your identity just to be seen? Or do you keep your nuance and risk being invisible?
On that terrifying note. Thank you for listening to The Deep Dive.
Go audit your websites, everyone.
We'll see you next time.